Hi everybody. So this was a video that I planned today, so it's a surprise that was not scheduled. I just watched a video yesterday that Gabby Reads posted where she did this thing where she said, if you like this book, you will also like this book. And since I've read a lot of the books she talked about, I figured I would share my ratings of them. For the first, if you like this, read this, she paired up I was on the wrong page. I'm sorry, hang on. Whoops. Uh-oh. Alright. So for the first pairing of books, she mentioned Little Fires Everywhere, which I read in 2023 and will be rereading again soon. And she paired that book up with, she said she gave 3 suggestions for this book. The Most Fun We Ever Had, which I have read twice and DNF'd halfway through both times because I just had trouble connecting to the characters, which is interesting because The Most Fun We Ever Had is supposedly a modern retelling of Little Women. I have read another modern retelling of Little Women called Hello Beautiful by Ann Napolitano, which I have also read twice. I read this one all the way through. I gave it 4 stars. I gave The Most Fun We Ever Had 3 stars. And I have read Little Women twice, 3 times. And that got 3.5 stars, and the reason why was because I hated the love triangle between Lori, Jo, and Meg. So the book that she recommended that if you like all 3 of these books was Blue Sisters by Coco Mellors, which is on my TBR currently. I'm still waiting for it to come into the library. This was one of Gabby's 5-star reads from 2024, so I'm really excited to read it because other booktubers have talked really highly about it too, such as Jack Edwards. So I am excited to see if it lives up to the hype. The next series of books that she talked about were The Measure, The Immortalist, and Here One Moment. Out of those 3, I have read Here One Moment, which I got as a grab gift at my family Christmas party in December, and it wasn't my favorite book by Leanne Moriarty. I actually thought it was depressing because it's about people who are traveling on a plane and this woman who goes person to person saying how you're gonna die, and I just was not too into it. I finished it, but I wish I DNF'd it because it almost put me into a reading slump. So Here One Moment was rated 3 stars. Oh, excuse me. And out of The Measure or The Immortalist, the book that is currently on my TBR is called The Measure. A book that she also recommended to go with this pairing of The Measure and The Immortalist was Sky Full of Elephants, which I have reviewed in a previous video. I will find that video and link it in the description so that way you guys can see my full opinions of it. The next books that she paired up were In My Dreams I Hold a Knife, which was a 5-star thriller read for me last year by Ashley Winstead, and she is coming out with a new book very soon called This Book Will Bury Me, which I'm very excited about. Gabby paired this book up with Shiver by Allie Reynolds, which I have not read yet. This is a thriller that is set at a ski lodge about people who are preparing for the Olympic snowboarding trials, and people are picked off slowly one by one. So I actually compared the plot of this book to The Favorites by Lane Fargo, because the they are both centered around people being on Olympic sports teams. In the favorites, it's ice skating, and in Shiver, it's snowboarding. Gabby paired up the favorites with Daisy Jones and the Six, and I listened to the favorites on audio, and I think for the type of book which the favorites and Daisy Jones and the Six are, which is the documentary style interview format, I really think that you should listen to this book on audio and read it at the same time, just so that you can get the vibe. I have not listened to Daisy Jones and the Six on audio yet, but I've been meaning to. The next two books that Gabby talked about in her video were Anxious People by Friedrich Bachmann and The Wedding People by Alison Epoch. I read both of these books a couple of months ago, and I gave both of them 3 stars. Anxious People was a reread from last year. I originally DNF'd it at 45%, and I decided to reread it again just to see if my opinion of it would change if I finished it, and it did. I mean, Friedrich Bachmann's writing is engaging. I just think the last time I read that book, I was probably in a slump, and that's why I didn't finish it. With The Wedding People, though, I read that book until the end, and I mean, I was really happy for the main character in the end of the book because she realized she was suicidal, and I believe I don't want to spoil it, but I think by the end of the book, she realizes that life is worth living and she should focus on being happy. So I gave Anxious People 3.5 stars and The Wedding People 3 stars. The next book that Gabby talked about were Kill for Me, Kill for You, and then she paired that with another thriller. I didn't write the title down, but I read Kill for Me, Kill for You by Steve Kavanaugh last year, and it was 4 stars for me. I'm excited for his new book. I don't remember if it's coming out this month or if it came out last month. I have to check Goodreads again. The book that Gabby recommended to pair with this book was Not So Perfect Strangers, which focuses on the strangers on a train trope. And I just found that trope of thriller so interesting, and I have never actually heard of the movie Strangers on a Train. I think that's a movie, and that's why they got the name for the trope, because it's a movie. The next book that Gabby mentioned was The Memory Police, which is a translated Japanese book that I listened to on audio back in February. I have mentioned it in another wrap-up video, but just to refresh you, this is about it's a dystopian novel about people whose memories are going missing in Japan, and like they live on this island and things that they love are slowly disappearing and they don't know where things are going. This book was really interesting and very emotional. I was almost pretty sad by the end of it, and I don't want to provide spoilers, but it was 4.5 stars. And the book that Gabby paired with it is called Nothing But the Rain, which is another book that, another dystopian thriller book about memories. And Gabby compared this book to the movie Memento, which is a thriller movie I have not seen about somebody who is trying to keep track of lost memories and has to write them all over the walls and stuff. But I have never seen that. The next book that she talked about was a horror novella that she recommended to me last year that I read during Halloween. And it is called Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke. I loved Eric LaRocca's writing, and I gave this novella 4 stars, and once I was done with it, I kind of wanted more from these characters, and it was sad to see it end and that it was so short. unlike Graveyard Shift by ML Rio, I was not, like, with Graveyard Shift, I was disappointed that it was so short and wish it was longer. With Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke, I was really invested in the story, so I was really bummed to see it end. But I wasn't as... I was just left at the end of reading Graveyard Shift kind of feeling empty and not wanting more. But with Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke, I was so invested in the characters and their relationship. With Graveyard Shift, I wanted the mystery to be solved, but I didn't have any connection to the characters. As you can see, my opinion of Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke is very different. And her recommendation to pair with this book is on my October TBR. It is called To Be Devoured. And I already talked about Daisy Jones and the Six in the favorites. The next two books that she paired up were Happy Place by Emily Henry and The X-Vows by Jessica Joyce. So I have talked about Happy Place before in previous videos where I have ranked all Emily Henry books I read, and that ranking will be updated once I read her new release in a couple of weeks, Great Big Beautiful Life. I gave Happy Place 4 stars because I liked how they pretended to be together even though they were broken up. Like, it made their past relationship seem more believable because they were trying to fake things for their friends. But with the relationship in The X-Vows, I had trouble connecting to the characters and believing their second chance romance was going to work out. So I gave Happy Place 4 stars and The X-Vows 3 stars. The next books she paired up were 2 horror books that I have not read yet. Used to Live Here will be on my TBR in October, and that has been hyped up so much by other booktubers like Destiny, and, well, Gabby really liked it because it was one of her top 5-star horror books from last year, so I'm excited to read that. And then, the last book is a book I just recently finished. It's a YA horror book that is dark academia set at a public all-boys high school. And it's a romance. It's a dark academia romance between these 2 high school boys named Thomas and Andrew. And they are both very creative. And Thomas is an illustrator. And Andrew is a writer, and they're working on a book together, but then Thomas, mysteriously leaves school with no explanation why, and we find out that he's in love with Andrew and afraid to admit his feelings. So I really loved this book. Something about me is that I'm recently new to the horror genre. I never used to read or even like horror books or movies when I was younger because I thought they were too scary and too bloody. But for some reason this year, thanks to BookTube, I have been introduced to a lot of horror books that I ended up liking, and I have been introduced to Stephen King's books, primarily by booktubers like Sarah Without an H and Gavin Reads It All. So I gave Don't Let the Forest In 4 stars, and then I put A Monster Calls on my TBR for October. So this was a surprise, unplanned video. As you guys know, my next reading progress video will be out next Tuesday at 10 a.m. after I am all the way through my interview at Vertical Harvest. And at the beginning of that video, I will provide an update on how the interview went. I hope everybody has a good Easter. Thanks for tuning in. Bye!